We live in a world where our actions in public speak louder than any words will ever say. The way we carry ourselves, whether it's at a cafe, on the street, or in a crowded bus, creates an impression that stays long after we've left. But here's the truth: sometimes, without realizing it, we do things in public that can damage our reputation, make others uncomfortable, or even close doors we didn't know were open. So today, let's talk about 9 things you should never do in public. When you're out in public, it's easy to forget that the people around you didn't sign up to hear your entire life story. You're sitting in a cafe A, waiting for your order, and suddenly the person next to you knows every detail of your breakup, your financial struggles, and the argument you had with your boss last night. It happens all the time, and most of the time, people don't even realize they're doing it. They think they're just talking, venting, maybe even being open and transparent. But what it really comes across as is a lack of awareness. Think about it. Public spaces are shared spaces. You never know who's listening, and not everyone wants to be dragged into a world of problems and personal drama. There's a difference between being authentic and being careless with your words. Authenticity is about being real, being honest. But when you start unloading every private detail at full volume in a coffee shop, a bus, or even in line at the grocery store, it stops being authenticity and starts being oversharing. And here's the thing: oversharing doesn't always make you look more open. It can make you look unprepared, unprofessional, even unsafe. Because the truth is, the more personal details you throw out in public, the more vulnerable you make yourself. People don't need to know where you live, how much money you make, or the secrets someone trusted you with. Those things belong in private conversations with people you trust, not in front of strangers who just happen to be standing within earshot. Oversharing in public can also make others uncomfortable without you realizing it. Imagine sitting quietly, enjoying your lunch, and suddenly being forced into someone else's emotional storm because they couldn't wait to call their friend later. You feel trapped, you feel awkward, and you start wishing you were anywhere else. That's the kind of energy oversharing creates. It pulls people into something they never agreed to be a part of. We've all been there, walking down the street, sitting at a restaurant, maybe even shopping for groceries, when suddenly 2 people start arguing at the top of their lungs. And you can feel the tension from across the room. It's sharp, it's uncomfortable, and it changes the whole atmosphere. You don't even have to know what they're arguing about. The volume, the body language, the raised voices, it tells you everything you need to know something's wrong, and now everyone else has to sit in it too. The truth is, arguing in public doesn't solve the problem, it amplifies it. Because the second you raise your voice in a public space, the argument stops being just between you and the other person. It becomes a performance. People are watching, people are listening, and whether you realize it or not, your disagreement just became a show for an audience that never wanted to buy a ticket. And here's where it gets worse: when emotions are high and voices are loud, clarity disappears. Nobody is really listening anymore. You're not hearing the words, you're just reacting to the noise. Public arguments are less about resolution and more about domination. Who can shout louder, who can cut deeper, who can win right there in front of everyone. And in the end, nobody wins. Both people walk away embarrassed, drained, and often further apart than before. There's also the impact it has on everyone around you. Strangers don't want to pick sides, they don't want to hear your personal issues, and they definitely don't want to feel unsafe just because they happen to be nearby. But that's exactly what happens when you argue in public. You're not just airing out your conflict, you're forcing other people to carry it too. And if we're honest, arguing loudly in public doesn't say, "I'm passionate." It says, "I've lost control." It shows that emotions are driving the wheel and reason has been shoved into the back seat. And when people see that, they don't think strength, they think instability. One of the fastest ways to see someone's true character is by watching how they treat people who are serving them. It could be a waiter bringing food to the table, cashier at the grocery store, janitor cleaning the hallway, or a receptionist answering the phone. These are people doing their jobs, often under stress, often under pressure, often dealing with dozens of personalities every single day. And yet, too often, you see someone snap at them, roll their eyes, or talk down like they're somehow less important. But here's the truth: disrespect doesn't make you look powerful. It doesn't make you look important. It makes you look small. Because when you raise your voice at a server for getting your order wrong, or dismiss a cashier because the line is taking too long, you're not showing strength, you're showing entitlement. And entitlement is never impressive. Think about the situation from their perspective. They're probably not the one who cooked the food. They didn't set the prices. They didn't decide how many people would walk through the door that day. Most of the time, they're just trying to keep things moving, keep people happy, and keep their job. And the way you choose to speak to them can either make their day easier or much, much harder. It's also worth remembering that disrespect doesn't stay private. People notice. The friends you're sitting with at dinner notice. The strangers at the next table notice. The employees talk about it in the back room. The impression you leave isn't, "Whoa, That person really demanded respect. The impression is, wow, that person doesn't know how to give it. And that's the kind of reputation that follows you without you even realizing it. There's something powerful about treating people with dignity, no matter their role, no matter the setting. Not because you want anything in return, but because it's the right thing to do. And when you strip everything else away, titles, uniforms, jobs, we're all just people trying to get through the day. The least we can do is make it easier, not harder. There are some things people won't tell you to your face, but they'll notice the moment you walk into the room. Hygiene is one of them. It's one of those silent signals we send without even realizing it. The way you smell, the way you present yourself, whether you look like you've taken the time to care for yourself, it all communicates something before you've even said a single word. Think about sitting next to someone on a bus or in a meeting who clearly hasn't showered or whose clothes look like they've been worn 3 days in a row. You don't say anything, but you feel uncomfortable. You're shifting in your seat, you're trying to breathe through your mouth, you're counting down the minutes until you can move away. It's not about being judgmental. It's about the fact that neglecting basic hygiene forces other people to experience what you've chosen not to take care of. And hygiene isn't just about avoiding body odor. It's about respecting shared spaces, washing your hands before touching things that others will touch, covering your mouth when you cough, managing your appearance in a way that doesn't distract or push people away. Nobody expects perfection. This isn't about wearing expensive clothes or having a flawless look. It's about the basics: clean clothes, fresh breath, a shower, the little things that tell people, I respect myself, and I respect being around you. What people don't always realize is that hygiene carries weight beyond physical presence. It affects opportunity. Someone might not call you back for another meeting, not because you weren't smart or capable, but because they couldn't get past the way you carried yourself physically. First impressions often start with the senses. Before they even process your words, they've already processed your smell, your appearance, your energy. Taking care of your hygiene isn't vanity, it's responsibility. It's making sure that when you walk into a public space, you're not taking away from the comfort of everyone else who has to share that space with you. One of the fastest ways to make someone uncomfortable is to stare at them. You may not think you're doing it, maybe you're just curious, maybe you're distracted, but from the other side, it feels like a spotlight. People can sense it immediately. The eyes that linger too long, the glance that doesn't break, the way someone looks you up and down without saying a word. And suddenly, that person feels exposed, unsafe, like they're being judged without context. We don't always realize how powerful our gaze is. A look can encourage, it can invite, it can comfort. But it can also do the opposite. It can intimidate, it can isolate, it can send a message that says, you don't belong here, or something's wrong with you. And once that message is sent, it's hard to take it back. Judgment in public works the same way. Maybe it's not said out loud, but it's written all over your face. The raised eyebrow, the smirk, the whispered comment to a friend while pointing at someone's clothes, their body, or the way they walk. What you might think is harmless is often the moment someone else remembers for the rest of their life. Because while you move on with your life, they're stuck replaying that feeling of being singled out. The truth is, you never know what someone else is carrying. That person you're staring at might already be fighting self-doubt, already questioning how they look, already battling with something you can't see. And your stare, your judgment, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It adds weight to what they're already carrying. And here's the thing, judging others in public never lifts you up. It doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you more confident. It doesn't make your life better. What it does is expose your own insecurity, because confident people don't need to tear others down, even silently, to feel okay about themselves. There's nothing that shuts down a connection faster than sitting across from someone who won't look up from their phone. You're there, you're present, you showed up to spend time together, but all you get is half their attention. Maybe a nod here, a yeah, their eyes still fixed on the screen. And after a while, you stop talking because what's the point? It feels like you're competing with a device you'll never beat. What people don't always realize is that staying glued to your phone doesn't just send a message in that moment. It builds a pattern. It tells the other person you don't matter as much as what's happening online. It says, whoever is texting me, whoever posted that update, whoever just liked my picture, that's more important than you sitting right in front of me. And no matter how small you think it is, that message chips away at relationships. Phones are powerful. They connect us to everything, but they also disconnect us if we let them. When you're in a social setting, every second you spend scrolling instead of engaging is a second that says, this moment isn't enough for me. And eventually, people stop offering you moments. They stop inviting you. They stop reaching out. Because why should they when all they get back is the top of your head and the glow of a screen? The irony is, most of the time, what we're checking isn't urgent. It's not life or death. It's updates we could read later, messages we could answer in an hour, notifications that aren't going anywhere. But the people in front of us, they will go somewhere. They'll walk away feeling dismissed. They'll start to guard their energy, and slowly, the connection you had begins to fade. Being present doesn't cost anything. Looking someone in the eye when they talk, putting your phone face down, choosing the conversation in front of you over the distraction in your hand. That's the kind of attention people remember. And in a world where everyone's distracted, presence feels rare. Presence feels valuable. Presence feels like respect. There's a certain point where fun crosses the line into reckless, and when it happens in public, it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. We've all seen it before. Someone stumbling down the street, yelling louder than everyone else, drawing attention, not because they're impressive, but because they're out of control. Maybe it starts as laughter, but before long, it turns into discomfort. People step back, they avoid eye contact. What could have been a good time becomes a scene nobody asked to witness. Public intoxication has a way of stripping away dignity. The louder you get, the sloppier you get, the more obvious it becomes that you're not in control anymore. And the thing about losing control in public is that you don't get to choose who remembers it. The strangers sitting near B, the coworkers who happen to walk past, even the people recording on their phones, they all take a piece of that moment with them. And once it's out there, you can't pull it back. The danger isn't just about embarrassment either. It's about safety. When you're intoxicated in public, your judgment is weaker, your awareness is lower, and your vulnerability is higher. You might trust the wrong person, wander into the wrong place, or make choices you'd never make if you were sober. And those choices don't just disappear the next morning. They leave real consequences. And here's what most people don't think about. Reckless behavior in public doesn't just reflect on you in that moment. It creates a lasting impression. You could be someone who's responsible, someone who's talented, someone who's respected. But if what people remember most is the time you lost control in front of everyone, that memory becomes the headline of your story. Public spaces aren't the place to gamble with your reputation or your safety, because the world is always watching more closely than you realize, and what feels like a forgettable night to you might be unforgettable for the people who had to witness it. Pulling out a phone and hitting record has become second nature. Someone does something unusual, someone looks different, someone makes a mistake, and the first instinct isn't to look away or give them space, it's to capture it. And in that split second, we forget that what feels like a quick laugh for us can feel like humiliation for them. When you record a stranger without their consent, you're taking something that doesn't belong to them. Their right to privacy. You're turning their life into content. Maybe it's the way they're dressed. Maybe it's how they're eating. Maybe it's something awkward they did without realizing. To you, it's just a funny clip for your friends. To them, it's exposure they never agreed to. And here's the part people don't think about. Once you hit post, that moment doesn't stay small. It can spread. It can get shared, reposted, stitched, turned into a meme. Suddenly a stranger's face, a stranger's body, a stranger's mistake. It's circulating online for thousands, maybe millions to see. And that person, they're left with no control, no context, and no way to take it back. The impact runs deeper than embarrassment. It can affect someone's confidence, their reputation, even their safety. Imagine being filmed at your lowest, when you weren't ready, when you didn't know anyone was watching, and then realizing it's all over the internet. That's not harmless entertainment. That's public shaming dressed up as content. Recording strangers without consent isn't about capturing a memory. It's about crossing a boundary. Because the truth is, not everything needs to be documented. Not every moment belongs on a screen, and not every person is yours to put on display just because you noticed them in public. At the end of the day, public spaces are shared spaces. The way we act in them doesn't just shape how others see us, it shapes how others feel around us. Every choice, whether it's how we treat people, how we carry ourselves, or how we handle our emotions, leaves an impression that lingers long after we've gone. None of us are perfect. We all slip up. But being mindful of these moments isn't about living under pressure. It's about choosing respect. Respect for yourself and respect for the people who didn't choose to be part of your story but still end up affected by it. Because when you step into the world, you're not just representing who you are. You're building the reputation of who people believe you to be. And the small decisions, the ones you don't think anyone notices, are usually the ones that tell the loudest story.